very warm welcome to you all around the country and indeed the world for round 8 of the Apex Rear Wing 7th season here in the Caterhams. My name is Stairs and it's my great pleasure to welcome into the commentary box Ben Rhodes.
It's great to be here. This is a great looking track and should provide some great racing this week.
Absolutely is. It's a lot of undulation around here, which looks set to test the drivers. Going to be something a little bit different to last week, which was a bit more of a slipstreaming affair. There's the details of the rounds that we've had in towards the back end of last year, the first 5 rounds. We are in round 8, and that means just 3 rounds remaining, including tonight. Cadwell Park, there you go, midway through that screen, 30th of January, that is today. It's very quickly gone by the first month of this year. That is the layout for tonight. 2 15-lap races for a total race distance between the 2 races of just over 104 kilometres.
Yeah, this is going to be a... I'm just looking at something I was already. This is 15 laps is going to be quite fatiguing, I think, on the mind, especially on the body of the lap or set of races for the guys tonight.
It's not a circuit that gives the drivers too much time to think, and as you say, fatiguing is probably a good adjective for it. Here's a quick look at the point situation going into tonight, and Xeris with an absolutely commanding lead, 345 points, and Breton Folly some distance behind him in second, with Berto in 3rd place.
Yeah, behind them, Goofball, about 20-30 points behind him. Sam Smith behind as well. Probably hoping to... he is still within touch of Goofball. He just would hope for a return of pace a little better than he had it into Lagos last week. Running out the top 10 is Madbird and D-Smash still locked closely together. Resist, Bagsy, and the Absent Lewis Wedding still sitting in the top 10, but that's probably going to change tonight.
Yes, he's been gradually slipping his way down that order throughout the season after he's taken an extended sabbatical from Laguna Seca onwards, which is round 4. So in his 6 races that he did compete in, he finished on the podium 4 times with 2 second places, including a fastest lap.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good. It's interesting. You know, it's a good show for sort of what good points could get him. And I mean, he could have probably just rocked up some of the races at some points and still finished kind of well. But yeah, it'll be good to hopefully to get Lewis. He's a busy man, but get him in for a full season down the track.
Yes, Lewis with a lot of the admin sort of roles over at Automobilista Australia. And our eyes turn towards Nether, who's currently on his out lap. Slowest man in practice, which means he's the first out in this shootout session.
Yeah, there was a lot of shuffling towards the end that put Nether down the back. Yeah, I believe it was, saw it earlier. But yeah, Tyrol, Bagsy, and some of the later joiners. Tyrol actually in quite early, but Bagsy and Nether joined towards the end, so that's contributed to them both being down the back of the order.
Certainly has. And it really is going to be an interesting sort of race. I expect a fair bit of carnage on this sort of track. There's so many dips and dives. It's a superbike track in its real life guise. Doesn't really get a lot of car racing on it.
No, it holds more club level events. It's similar to those who know it in Victoria, something like Bryant Park Hill Climb, or a lot of sort of the hill climb circuits, especially this section that is going up through now. But yeah, it's very tight, very twisty, and a couple of guys were going too wide in practice. We might see that in the racing, but I said to them earlier, it's going to keep both us and them on our toes.
Yes, well, now that we've got the first flying lap just about to get underway, let's go on board with Nether to just get a sense of what this racetrack looks like from the driver's eye as he plunges down towards the start-finish line down this pit straight, and a little bit of a decline on the grid, going uphill, bit of a lift there to get the nose to grip, not too much though. It's a very, very fast corner, that turn 1, and then into 2, another very fast corner that sort of leads its way almost without really straightening the car up into turn 3, which takes you all the way down this back straight, long uphill section, which means that turn 3 is so critical because you do come out of that corner without enough speed, then it punishes you all the way up this hill. Turns 4 and 5, pair of right-handers, and again, lots of very long, fast radius corners. Not really too many out-braking opportunities there, but you should expect cars to be able to follow each other quite nicely. Gooseneck, this part of the track is called, turn 6 and 7, very, very fast chicane that plunges you downhill towards turn 8, which is known as Mansfield, and it's probably the heaviest braking zone up to that point on the circuit, down towards turn 9 and 10. And this part of the circuit is just an absolute roller coaster. You can see it dipping and diving up ahead. But first you've got to climb up the hill. It's like a roller coaster, as I say. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can see some of the plunges that the drivers go up and down here. So coming towards the back end of the lap here, a couple of right-handers to take Nether back onto the pit straight. And a little bit wide there. You've got to be so careful. It's easy to understeer. The drivers were talking about that during the practice session through that corner. And it's because it leads onto a big straight. It's quite an important part of the track. But 36.6, that is the benchmark that Nether has laid down. And Tyrrell is the next man up.
Yeah, it's not a bad time. I managed I think a 1:39 in some private testing yesterday. So yeah, it's a good start time. But yeah, Cadwell Park, I thought I'd mention, nicknamed the mini Nürburgring, and for the history buffs, started off as a concept in the 1930s.
It's not a circuit for the faint of heart. So in terms of you know, if you're doing your early sort of running an Automobilista, that's certainly a baptism of fire.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what's going to be for Tyrrell. He's had plenty of relatively open tracks to work with Interlagos, giving you plenty of room, being an F1 level circuit, to then go to what is essentially some bashing around a back paddock. This is going to be definitely a trial by fire for him.
Yeah, polar opposite to the sort of racing that I expect we'll see tonight, compared to Interlagos, which turned into a fantastic slipstreaming affair between Xeris and Brenton Foley. Xeris equaling his own record of 9 race wins in a row. He's looking to add to that and make it double figures tonight, and I certainly would have my money on him. This circuit, it was his pick. Everyone got to choose a circuit today, well, for this season, and that was his choice, and a very good choice indeed. So I expect him to do very, very well here tonight. Practice is anything to go by. I would say that's not too far off the mark. Tyrrell was up through the first sector, but 8/10 down through the second sector, just losing out there.
Yeah, it's possible you got to wiggle up somewhere up through the new section. Turns sectors 1 and 2 comprise most of the new section. The old track originally took a bend just off straight start finish line and started up the mountain pretty much straight from the get-go. The mountain being that S section going up the hill there that you see on the right. Yeah, nearly 2 seconds down on Nether's time there. So yeah, it's possible that just some of the more finicky parts of this track are catching Taro out with his lack of experience.
Yeah, well, Sector 1 is the least technical of all the 3 sectors in this circuit. Just the very, very fast left-hander followed by the 2 rights, and then you go up the hill, and about halfway up that back straight is where the second sector starts.
Yeah, so up to that point, it's just really there's still a little bit of car balance and car control, but it's a lot more asking something like Interlagos in some ways and stuff like that, where you've actually got smooth, relatively fast-flowing corners. Not a lot of runoff and a lot of track to use, but if you can stay on that racing line, you're all good. It's only backed around here and through some of the S's at Gooseneck and up the mountain and through the Hall Bends towards the end that it really starts to get technical, and that's where it will really separate the men from the boys.
Bagsy is a 10th up through the first sector. And as we said, I think now they might have been a little bit tardy through there, maybe not quite braving it out as much as he might have. And it's through the middle sector where he seems to be gaining back time. He gained time back on Tyrrell through there, and he's gained time back on Bagsy, who's now 2/10 adrift of Nether's time.
Yeah, this circuit's a tricky bugger if you haven't had any chance to practice beforehand, and with limited practice for both Nether and Bagsy, this session always proves to be a how ballsy you want to play it. But it's more amplified for those who haven't driven this track a lot to go, will we go 10/10 and hope it sticks, or will we play to what we know is safe and best? And we're going to see soon. It's looked like that Bagsy's more played the safe, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, that's again nearly 9/10. So it's Nether's experience, although not on this track, has come to the fore, it seems, which has put him up on 2 cars now in that last sector.
He's done a great job through the back sector there. I wonder if Nether was just maybe disguising his pace a little bit in practice, because in qualifying he's put together a pretty solid lap, and the guys are struggling to match it towards the back end of the lap.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of on the topic of disguising pace. Sorry, that was looking at the wrong car there. Brendan Foley's up after Roadhog, but yeah, Roadhog's up next.
Yeah, and he's 8/10 up through the first sector, so he's putting a serious challenge towards Nether here. You are right. We're not used to seeing Brendan Foley so far down the order, but again, probably disguising his pace, maybe not getting the practice in that he needed. The same thing happened to him last week, and he got on the pace eventually, but he just wasn't quite there at the start of the practice session.
Yeah, in Brenton's case, I think part of the issues might have been the storms that are currently hitting Melbourne that played havoc with his power for a little bit. It was before the practice session started, but that might have contributed to a later than optimal entry time into the session. But I missed Roadhog's second sector there. He got a big wiggle up the mountain.
Yeah, well, he's got a huge margin to play with there. He found another chunk of time there through the middle sector and is now 1.5 seconds to the good. Nether, of course, did have a pretty strong final sector, so Roadhog's still got to have a decent finish to this lap, but my sources tell me that Roadhog's going to come through and take provisional pole position.
Yeah, that was a pretty good, pretty clean, if not totally fast final sector, but he didn't need too much speed with the time he built up. But yeah, up to nearly 2 seconds there on Nether, so he's the first person to beat Nether's provisional pole time.
Yeah, he found time through the final sector as well. Actually, he's bypassed the 35s completely with Nether on a 36.6, and Roadhog's gone down into the 34s with a 34.796.
Yeah, I saw interesting of note, just looking at some of the gaps so far. This is towards the back of the field where you're going to see bigger gaps, but compared to Interlagos, where we had fairly close qualifying, we've got almost 4 seconds covering what is provisional top 4 at the moment. That is going to change, but yeah, it's interesting that this track is just, there's so much of a challenge involved with it that it is causing a bigger gap between, again, sort of the men and the boys, as it were.
Well, Foley is driving with that flamboyant style that we're used to seeing him, the back kind of getting tired of trailing behind the front and trying to overtake the front as he went through, but he's finding time with this. It's working for him. He was 5/10 up through the first sector, he's 7/10 up now through the second sector.
Well, it's all going to be if he can hold it through these couple of corners. That sector there was that sector there was a troubling one for him in practice, and down here at the appropriately named hairpin, a lot of guys were having issues with rear end balance, especially on the throttle in first gear. So, but he looks like he got through that perfectly. So, unless he a little wide there, just
understeers through that corner. It's so easy to do that.
It was understeer and then it was oversteer and nearly put the rear on the grass, but I don't think it's hurt him too bad.
He still found time through there, 1.5. He was absolutely pushing the limits on that lap, and Brenton Foley goes to the top of the tree with a 33.2. We're going down in chunks here, seconds at a time. We're shaving off this provisional pole time.
Yeah, it's now 5 seconds covering the field. So yeah. I'm gonna stop. I won't say it again, so it doesn't become a wet of the night. But yeah, this track is yeah.
It is, yeah. It separates the men from the boys. I think that's the phrase that we may continue to use throughout the night, because
yes, I believe so.
It is very true. As Resist is first man for a couple of minutes now not to be up through the first sector. He's down on Foley's first sector time, and well, it's no wonder Foley was absolutely attacking that first part of the lap. Well, he's attacking the whole part of the lap, to be honest.
Yeah, this is a similar thing that we're seeing with Interlagos, where Foley in his qualifying session was very quick in the first sector, but through the second and the third started to struggle because it was a lot tighter, more technical. The open sectors suit his line, but he's up again, just almost 1.5 tenths. But again, as with other guys, it'll be down to how he navigates this final sector.
Well, his fastest lap in practice was a 33.8, which would be only good enough for second. Looks like he's up, and if he gets a decent final sector in, the thing is, I think Foley would have found time with his aggressive style in that back end of the lap, but time will tell whether Resist has got enough to overhaul Foley's time.
Yeah, I think it looked like he needed to have a second stab. Yeah, he
Oh,
did
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
That might have been part of it. He needed to have a second stab at the throttle there through this second to last corner. He put the foot down, and I just saw the car start to over-rotate, so he had to get off it again, straighten the thing back up, and go again. So that was part of it. But yeah, that final sector, I haven't seen anyone really pushing it hard aside from Foley. But yeah, as we get to the higher up the field, we're possibly going to see some guys really pushing it through the last sector, through the old sector, and that sector bites back. So yeah, it's interesting to see if anyone can make it through there without a bit of a whoopsie.
You see Decimage is pushing like an expectant mother with her legs in the stirrups, absolutely sliding the car around through the first part of this lap, but he's not showing any dividends on the timing screen. 0.361 down on Foley.
No, he is making some good use of his curbs, though. He was talking in practice about trying to find exactly where the track limits are. So, that was a slide.
It was stylish, I think. That would get 10 points from the Russian judge. But
it would definitely.
Fast, he was getting advice from his main rival Madbird through the practice session. There was a lot of cross-referencing throughout that practice session. What gear are you taking this corner on? This? Oh well, no, I'm taking it in this corner. Zero saying I'm taking it in a gear higher than all of you. And Decimage, unfortunately for him, the timing screens are not telling him what he wants to know, and the car is just all over the place. It's sliding around. It's aggressive, but it's not
fast.
No.
I mean, the problem is, apart wouldn't help us saw it earlier. He pinched the inside curb with the rear left wheel on the entrance to the first part of the mountain chicane, and that very nearly upset the car, and then a bit of wiggle at the top. So it was a good show that lap, but the pace wasn't forthcoming. He's sitting in third.
He is, and he's just ahead of his teammate Roadhog. About a tenth and a half between them. He'll probably be happy from that, just for the bragging rights. That Madbird, what can he do? He'll be eager to jump ahead of Decimage. Bit of grass on the inside there. Won't want to be doing that too much.
I'm very surprised that that didn't trigger as a track cut. He was very close to having four wheels off there. I'm not sure if it was intentional for him to be going that far in.
Well, presumably he would have avoided the lap if he had got a track cut. So, he's well down through the first sector there. So, whatever it is, whatever advantage or disadvantage,
ooh,
probably more disadvantage.
That's a yeah. That was another slide. That was again. Graceful slide.
Oh, that wasn't graceful.
That's not graceful.
Oh no, he's going to be very, very angry with himself there.
He is off to the car park within the middle there.
He's going to destroy his Caterham by the looks of it. So that's the first casualty of this qualifying session, and very uncharacteristic. I don't think we've seen a proper mistake from Madbird throughout qualifying this season. What a time for that to come. But yeah, he's got the pace. He should be able to make those positions up during the race.
Yeah, he does only have a, I had it sitting somewhere here. Where is it? Yeah, only a 10-point gap to Decimage, who he was going to, I'm not going to say it was a shoo-in, but he was looking, early stages, but best in his practice pace, he was going to out-qualify him. But yeah, he's starting the back now, and this track's going to be a real bugger to move up through the way you've seen people like Brenton Foley do in previous weeks at places like Interlagos. So, yeah, it's almost going to be relying on Decimage going backwards rather than him potentially making up spots, because it's going to be easier to fall off the road and go backwards here than it is to make up spots through better pace.
Well, their times at the end of that practice session weren't too far apart from one another. Madbird did a 33.45 and Decimage a 33.52, so very, very close in that regard, but Decimage really only got up to that sort of time because Madbird was allowing him to follow in his wheel tracks and telling him which gears he was taking certain corners in, so he wouldn't make a great military strategist with that sort of level of secret keeping, but nonetheless he's generous competitor, and
yeah.
he just may well be ruining giving Decimage that many tips after that qualifying session. Having said that, there's still the race to go, and that's where the points get paid.
They do. Yeah, as long as that happened to Madbird of all people, he had spent the most. We can't count, or I can't accurately count pre-practice session lap counts for people, but he had the most laps in this practice session tonight of, I think, something like 44 laps. So in theory, the mistakes would be least likely to happen to him, something like that, and. But it did, and now we've got Goofball, who I just missed that second sector, but I'm guessing he's going pretty quickly looking at these lines.
Not really. He's half a second down. He's not repeating the heroics of previous years, previous rounds.
Goofball Antics, who we've come to expect to become something of a qualifying specialist, but this track maybe just not quite suiting him as much because he is not really there or thereabouts. He's actually found a fair bit of time through that final sector, but he's still only just behind Foley. So that was a bit of a recovery effort from Goofball Antics towards the back end of that lap.
Yeah, that was a good recovery for him. He's probably a little unhappy he couldn't drag an extra tenth or so out of that. But yeah, good recovery. He was looking to be potentially a lot further down the. I say a lot further down the auto. Possibly could have been down to third unless he made a big boo boo. But yeah, I'm hesitating to pick that. Xeris picked a track not so much that he was good at, but one he knew everyone else would struggle at. Because I believe this was Xeris's track.
It is Xeris's track, and I think his style will suit him well around here. Sam Smith, I wonder what he can produce tonight. That's a little bit wide through there, but he's hasn't visited the podium for a few rounds, which is unusual for him. Gorpore the last time that he was on the podium, and his best result's only a third place. We're used to seeing him collect victories in second places. Maybe these Caterhams just not quite to his liking. He's not far off Foley though. This might be a good opportunity for Sam Smith.
Yeah, he's that was an entry.
It's going to cost him time. He drifted wide of the apex there.
It's possible that might have potentially is a racing line, but yeah, that was more than likely not. So he is. Wee.
Flicking that one around. Gee whiz, indeed. That was very, very, very well held. The car flicking from one side to the other.
Oh, I think that was intentional. They did talk about. I think Mabo mentioned stabbing the brake in that last corner to get the car turned in. Well, no, they didn't cut it for him. It looks good. It's the Top Gear. What is it? Celebrating a crap car philosophy, where if it looks good, it's slow. If it looks crap, it's fast.
Yes. Well, Berto, he's been on a hot run of form just quietly. He's on his 4th podium in a row, so he'll be aiming for 5 on the trot. 3 second places followed by a 3rd place last time out at Interlagos. And that came after a bit of a lean period of 6 races off the podium. He's looking pretty good tonight, so 2 tenths. He was just a little bit too quick for Brenton Foley last round, but maybe Foley has the edge tonight. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, it was a little bit too quick for Foley for the most part. Foley managed to get past him in the 2nd race. But yeah, Berto, he had a pretty messed start to the start of the season. Just the one podium in the first 4 races, and again, it had a lean period. He's sort of come out of nowhere though to wrap up 3 seconds and a third in the last 4 races at Paul Armanic and Interlagos. Yeah, he's kind of set himself a standard now. He's going to be a very viable podium contender. He's not too far off the back of Brenton Foley, and if something were to happen to Foley, he's got a good chance of maybe stepping a little further up on that podium.
He's looking pretty good through here. He was up through the 2nd sector, split by 100th of a second, and this final sector has looked pretty smooth, very, very precise, hitting all those lines. Is it fast though? No, it's not quite fast enough. He's lost out to Foley. Foley's aggressive style helping him in the back end there. I thought that Berto might have had that, but surprisingly, it wasn't quite enough. And only just ahead of Goofball Antics.
It was the closest margin we've seen off of first the entire session so far. Not a record I suspect Xeris is going to break though. He's unless something goes wrong, this is his home track, and he is known for his pace, which he showed in practice. I expect him to be putting a fairly healthy gap between himself and Brenton Foley.
Well, it's a good start, not a huge gap, but he's taking healthy strides towards collecting what would be his 4th pole position in a row, and the only other men to take pole position away, or the only other person in this season to take pole position away from Xeris' Goofball Antics. And that was all the way back in rounds 3 and 4 at Play City Circuit and Laguna Seca. But look at this, it's a masterclass from Xeris, 9/10 of a second up on anyone else's time. And watch the lines that he takes around here, because they will be the correct ones.
Yeah, I mean, you watch the lines, but it's like having done 5 seconds a lap off of Xeris, and what I thought was healthily quick. It's one of the things like with professional race drivers, even the high cars I race with, I just don't get how they do it. I follow the exact same lines they do, and I'm still 2 seconds behind. So he's got a knack. We'll put it that way. He's got a knack for speed, and
he's smooth. And
he is very smooth. But that's
his biggest pole margin I think this entire season.
Bloody hell! That's a 131.
He's not flamboyant though. You're talking about his style. The way that he does it is, I think, mostly under brakes. He is such a great braker, and I mean it's all of those things. He gets on the throttle early without losing the back end, but he can stop the car in a distance that you wouldn't have thought possible without seemingly upsetting the car.
Yeah, it's either set up or it's just extremely good left or right foot. I'm not sure how he does it, but extremely good left foot brake, extremely good left foot brake modulation. Try to get to the point where it's locking but not fully locking, and to get just to the point where he's got some wheel grip to get the thing stopped in the most optimum time that even ABS couldn't do for you.
Well, it's netted in pole position, and I think I mean, it may be too early to make such predictions, I suppose, but it's hard to see anyone bettering that and getting better tonight, because this is the racetrack where he can break away and he can just run his pace.
Yeah, the problem is he's the only reason most guys, with the exception of middle sector pace at Interlagos, the only reason most people don't keep up with him is because of slipstream. And aside from the front straight and maybe the straight between turns 3 and 4, you're not going to get any here. So unless something happens, or unless Brenton Foley, Berto, Goofball are all sandbagging even qualifying, yeah, Xeris is going to be following Madbird around probably 3/4 of the way through this race.
The other thing is that a lot of the other guys are very, very closely matched for pace, so they will find it difficult to break away from one another, whereas Xeris is completely on a league of his own pace-wise, which will make that a lot easier for him. And when you're in a pack fighting, we all know just how much more difficult it is to concentrate on your own lap time when you're going to think about a car in the mirrors or in front of you, blocking you.
Yeah, so yeah, it's yeah. I've got to find a solid bit of wood to touch, but yeah, unless something happens, it's hard, really hard to go past Xeris taking these 2 wins out, which we're unfortunate for him because there's no one to challenge him. He's going to get very little air time this week, but it means we get to help out the sponsors of the midfield.
Yes, well, we saw a pretty healthy battle in the midfield last week in Interlagos between Sam Smith, D-Smash and Madbird. Apparently they had an equally enticing battle in the second race, but we didn't see any of that, much to their chagrin, because we were following that battle between Brenton Foley and Xeris for the lead.
Yeah, exactly. They are, yeah, from what they've been told, and I did actually see a little bit in the scoreboard, but it was hard to drag the cameras and the attention away from the race front. In fact, we haven't seen it for such a little while, and battles are good regardless of where they are in the pack, but there's a little bit more priority and a little more importance to battles when they're for the lead or for the podium over the midfield, no matter how, and they're both as hard as each other in terms of actual pace in intensity in those battles. So yeah, that we would have given that more airtime if we could have, but we only got one feed we can send through at once.
It's our philosophy of following the highest placed battle. So if there are cars out front that they're not in a battle, then we'll focus on whatever battle is behind them.
Yeah, it's to ensure that we can provide the best coverage, and not this is like real racing where people are partially racing to get their cars and their name to a degree, but their cars and their sponsors out there. But yeah, it's just good to keep it back in the arc as well. And the mid-pack, normally, if there's not a battle at the lead, the mid-pack is going to be a battle. The back of the field, with the exception of some recovering drivers, it's normally always the bigger gaps towards the back. Bigger gap. We're seeing similar gap sizes, I think, towards some of the back cars, especially, at least in qualifying, between some of the cars at the back and being the same as what Xeris was from Brenton Foley. So, unless there's a good battle there, yeah, the battles in the mid-pack in a properly developed series like this one has turned into, and normally the place to go if you want some action.
Very interesting shot we got just a few seconds ago, showing I guess the difference between a lot of the guys here and Xeris is Xeris taking a corner quite perfectly, and literally everyone else behind him going off onto the grass.
Yeah, I'd almost call it crashing in sympathy if, or going off in sympathy had Xeris done so, but no, it's almost as if they were in shock about how good his line was and just completely forgot that they were on a racetrack and going somewhere.
Yes, well, we're giving Xeris some airtime now because he probably won't get much during the race itself. And of course we're waxing lyrical about him now because we probably won't have too many opportunities to talk about him during the race.
No, it'll be probably a lap or a bi-lap update on just how much of a gap he's got. But yeah, otherwise I mean, we love you, Xeris, but yeah, you're not. Things aren't going to be exciting for you up the front aside from setting new best laps.
Now the practice start, as is customary for these guys, they do quite a few practice starts, and always a good opportunity to check out what other people are doing off the start. Maybe there's a bit of sandbagging going on in these. You might hold back just a little bit more, or you might push just a little bit more than you would in the actual start.
Yeah, it's yeah, possibly a little bit of mind games. As we said before, there's also a chance to sort of get some venom out of the system before you actually get to the racing, which is going to be an important thing to do this week because there is enough room. People that want to battle will find the place to battle. If and it probably will happen, Madbird and D-Smash find each other on track again, we can guarantee they're going to go too wide, as they're going too wide at the moment. Yeah, there isn't the room for any margin of we'll try and make this stick kind of maneuvers like you see in any other track which actually has runoff, even on just the tarmac. So yeah, it's a good chance to get some of the real overly aggressive raciness out of the system, so that they can be a bit more, I suppose, Xeris in their approach during the races.
Yep. So I guess in terms of that qualifying session, it was a fairly standard qualifying session, the kind of order we're used to seeing, apart from Madbird, who spun in the second sector, and that means that he'll have a fair bit of work to do during this race. And it's not going to be terribly easy, as we talked about during the qualifying session. There are not too many heavy braking zones, there's a couple, but so many of the corners are very, very fast corners, so you've got to be brave to make the overtake.
I think I've seen just a bit of bump drafting between Xeris and Bagsy. This is, as I said before, possibly he's going to replicate what things may be like in an actual race scenario. But
Bird up the background while that was happening as well.
Yeah. I think he's just got. He's going for a spin there. That was actually, I think Xeris set him up for a spin and then saved him as he tapped the front wheel on the way past.
And another practice start. Madbird has decided not to partake.
Nope. Nether's not going to be part of this either. He's into the pits. Interesting note, not going to use the pits, but there is one of those little annoying chicanes on entry to the pits here. Oh, actually, no, he's going to shortcut through the pits. He doesn't want to partake either.
Trying to do there, but he's clouded the side of the pit wall there with his car. Now he's reversing back onto the grid.
Yeah, that's not proper FIA race setup procedure.
And everyone is waiting for him, so there we go. He's back. He's in position now.
Yeah, it's interesting to note actually unless they are arranged for the drivers, there's actually no grid boxes printed on the track this week because it is a bike track.
Yes, you've got those small little grid boxes for bikes, but none of them correlate to where the cars are required to stop. But of course, when you are in the game as a driver, you are given a little red box indicated by the game to tell you where to stop.
Well, that was a tidy start there for D-Smash. He's already going 3 wide. I was going to say, just as a wonderful hypothetical thought, would it be interesting if they were to, I mean, it would not work ever, I don't think. It wouldn't be interesting if a race started on this place 3 wide.
Terrifying.
Well, it's again different frames of thought. One man's terrifying, and another man's interesting.
It would certainly be interesting from a spectator's point of view.
Oh, yes, it would.
Without any doubt. So 2 minutes remaining in this warm-up session. Looks like they've been fairly clean starts. Most of the issues we've seen just been people probably misjudging the grip level and going wide on the grass, but not a lot of, as I say that, someone spins in the background, but not a lot of contact that we can see of car to car.
Again, as you say that, I just watched, who was it? I watched another two-car, might have been, possibly was Sam Smith and someone else, went wheel to wheel just in front of, I think it was Resist, who had spun for a second time. Speaking of spinning, Roadhog's going to go venture into the old pits, where he was. Anything over on live timing, it's I'm guessing it's showing fast cars. There's a couple of icons on fire. For anyone who's using the live timing, and if you want to use it, you can find it at arwleague.liveraces.com.
Certainly right, that's what we use during the race. Of course, the purple time's not generally particularly indicative during this session, but of course during the race it gives you a good insight about who's setting what time. Sometimes it's not always Zero setting the fastest purple sectors. Sometimes people take that accolade away from him, but he's so good at keeping those tyres in that he tends to come back at them later on in the race and take that mantle of fastest lap for himself.
Yeah, I get the feeling that, I mean, as we've seen already, Xeris is not going to have that problem either of the two races tonight, unless he gets a tighter start or something and somebody gets into the good lap before him. But Foley has had the opportunity to do so, and I think Goofball at one point had the opportunity to set a fastest lap before. I believe it was looking at the results sheet, it was a late spin, I think, for Goofball, if I remember correctly. But he had set the fastest lap on the way to qualifying 10th.
Biggest risk for Xeris will be the first lap, I think. If he gets by that cleanly, and what has been happening in most of these races is that by the end of the first lap he tends to have a lead of about a second already, which in these cars is quite large. Once you're out of about 8/10 of a second, you're basically out of the slipstream, and of course we don't expect the slipstream to play too much of a role today. If he finds himself in that sort of position, he should be home and hosed, but if he has a bad start and loses positions, I certainly wouldn't write him off in that instance either, because he has some sort of ridiculous advantage of about a second and a half per lap over the field.
Yeah, the interesting thing about actually, I know that over here in Melbourne for myself and Nether and Sam Smith, it's still quite warm. We just had a storm roll in, but I'm currently in a room with a computer that's trying to cook itself, so that's cooking me as well. What's the weather like for you guys though? Is Xeris going to face the same heat issues he's had the last couple of weeks?
I believe it's still fairly warm in their digs because of the air conditioning setup, but by far the coolest Wednesday we've had in several weeks. It was about 36 or 37 today, but a cool evening and night and day between the conditions today and the conditions we had last week, which were biblically hot.
Oh, they were that bad both sides of the border. I think we get 2 days of 20 in the next couple of days. I think you guys do as well, and that's going to be it's going to be so good. Yeah,
we'll be getting the duck down doona back out and probably have the jackets on as the cars jump away onto their warm-up laps. So let's just quickly take you through the field. Xeris, of course, class of his own in qualifying, and he will lead them away on pole position with Brent Foley in tow. He's the man who's given Xeris the most to think about during this season. Does he have enough today to challenge for victory? Behind him, Berto on a hot run of four podiums in a row. He's had 5 this season, so can he add to that tally tonight? Goofball Antics has been a pretty good qualifier this season. He's been up and down in the races. He's got a few half-decent results in the races, but he's had a few poor ones as well, like coming in the first race in the Grenaseca where he finished second. Resist, great qualifying as always for him. He seems to be just punching on the back door of the podium a fair bit, and I have called him to get a podium potentially by the end of this season. I certainly think he's got the skills for it. He's just got to have it all cut together for him. He's Sam Smith lines up behind him in 6th place, ahead of Desamaj, who got a few tips from his rival Madbird, and we happen to see Madbird in the back of the grid today. His teammate Roadhog in 8th place, sitting in behind him. Said he can't wait for this season to be over. He enjoys driving the Caterhams, but he just doesn't feel like he's particularly competitive in them. And he's had a few podiums himself, so it's hard to deny that. Never in 9th place, behind him Josh Bagsy, and Tyrrell in 11th place with the aforementioned Madbird spinning off in qualifying, starting from the back.
Yeah, it's a pretty healthy grid. I think it's good to have most of the. I think we got all the regulars here. Yeah, it'll be a good grid. Hopefully, I'm going to make it to the end, and anyone, especially I think some of the guys, just everyone, I think is going to be suffering possibly from some sort of heat. I think Queensland's getting some sort of thing as well. So yeah, it's going to be, as I said right at the start, this is going to be a case of physical and mental endurance.
Well, everyone's in place, it appears. Someone's angled themselves well with, I think it's Bagsy.
That's Bagsy.
Lights are on. We're about to get racing in round 8. Bagsy trying to drive around one of the QV cars, but it's a pretty good start from Xeris. Behind him, Berto going up alongside Brenton Foley, trying to drive around the outside of turn 1, which will give him the inside for turn 2, and already that's what Xeris wanted to see, is the guys behind him fighting over position.
Yeah, it's been a pretty clean start for a lot of them. Well, Goofball nearly off into the grass there, and Sam Smith nearly helped him into a spin. Yeah, up the front, we're seeing we're seeing a Xeris running right at the front, which isn't a surprise to anyone. But Brenton Foley and Berto currently too wide going into what is the turn 4. Oh, that was definitely
there,
a touch.
Yeah, and that's Berto almost taking to the grass there. Resist had a great start out of 5th place up into 4th. And he's being held up by these guys. He had quite a margin on those behind him. Goofball Antics having a poor start. Oh, I thought that was a big moment for Berto. It was just him clouding the curb. And someo's around. That's Madbird in the background, looking like he was charging it through the field.
That's Tyrrell actually.
Try and catch a replay. Looks like Roadhog and Madbird were going side by side. And yeah, it was Madbird spinning and into the path.
Another spin. Resistor spun on the way out of the mountain chicane. He's dropped right to the back.
That's a huge shame for him because he was up there in 4th place, even fighting over the podium positions. Now, has he got any help? He wasn't near anyone. No, he's just done that one all by himself. And what an unfortunate start for Resist. And he has to wait for the entire field to go through.
Yeah, Nether got some air through the back S's there. Tyrrell was wide again on the grass and also got some air. We have talked about jumps at this track, but they're finding jumps where there shouldn't be jumps.
Well, we're halfway through the 2nd lap, and Xeris has a 3-second lead already. This is going about as well as it possibly could have gone for Xeris, as Foley down the back straight looks towards the inside of Berto, and them fighting over each other is what's giving him such a massive lead out front. Xeris has checked out.
Yeah, Xeris is, as we predicted, he has buggered off, and it's Foley and Berto now fighting over fighting over who follows him home into 2nd. Very early point status, but unless something happens a la Resist, it's a shame for Resist though, but he's got the pace, so hopefully he can recover some positions. As I said, it's a hard track to pass at, but we have seen some good overtaking so far. Hopefully Resist can recover and join this battle in race 2.
We've got plenty of battles to look at throughout the field there, looking at Goofball Antics in 4th place with Sam Smith. It was a bit closer a few moments ago. Sam Smith's just had a bit of a moment coming into this back section of the track. Looks like they're all catching up to Berto. Berto must have had a bit of a moment.
Yeah, Goofball had a moment as well. Sam Smith pulled right up, and Sam Smith nearly had a moment there.
That was a moment. There's no nearly about that. He was absolutely sideways, and that's going to cost him all the way down this pit straight. Desamaj and Roadhog going in tandem behind the QV cars. Bagsy in 8th. Recovery after that early spin.
Yeah, I believe Bagsy went off again because Desamaj was right behind him about a lap ago. So for them to have both cleared past him this quickly, I suspect that Bagsy had a wiggle or an off or something, which is why he's back to where he is. But it has helped in a way for D-Smash Bagsy to be where he is, because Bagsy is now going to very soonly possibly be becoming a little bit of a roadblock for Madbird, and that's going to benefit D-Smash for Madbird to be as far back as he can get him.
Bit of grass there for Bagsy, so that'll help Madbird.
Yeah, Madbird actually wants to get past Bagsy as soon as he can. D-Smash does have Roadhog playing him in tandem, and while they don't necessarily get any further up the positional order, they can actually just produce a bigger gap back to Madbird, and you can also do better on the track in clean air, but you still lose what little slipstream you get down the straights, and every little bit helps. So if they can create a big clean air gap and work together on this, they might be to keep Madbird at bay. Although we do still have another 12 laps to go.
Xerus on his first flying lap of this race did a 31.6, which is 3/10 faster than he managed in qualifying, and he's just blitzed it again with a 31.4.
Bloody hell.
That is dominance. 6 seconds is lead. And I don't know that we've seen a few dominant performances from Xerus, but this is something else.
Yeah, this is what happens when you take the Stig to his home track. He just disappears.
So meanwhile, behind him, Goofball Antics and Sam Smith fight on the 4th place. Brenton Foley and Berto are not separated by too much distance for 2nd place. Berto currently in 3rd. And those three, Berto, Foley and Xerus, getting quite used to occupying the podium, but a few leery moments for Berto just then.
Yeah, there was a few moments for him. I just flipped back to the field. Madbird has just got past Bagsy. They went too wide through turn 5, and I think a combination of pace from Madbird and Bagsy thought it was probably smarter to back off before they got into the downhill chicane. But yeah, Madbird has now set his sights on the QV-BV racing pair, but they're 5 seconds up the road from him.
You want to hope that they engage in some sort of battle, and he doesn't want to have too much of an issue with Bagsy if Bagsy comes back at him, because he's got 6 seconds to close down that pair in front of him.
Yeah, what's going to help him in a way is if Roadhog does fall off the back of D-Smash, because that then produces a small point of slipstream for him to hop off of to make that gap up a little quicker. If it's the 2 cars, he's going to make up 6 seconds before he hits slipstream. But if Roadhog drops back, he's going to make up 3 seconds and then grab some slipstream and then make another 1.5 seconds from there. So essentially it'll be a little easier if Roadhog's dropping back, which he is slowly doing with D-Smash pulling out. He's nearly 7/10 away at the moment, although he did make a put to that last corner.
Goofball Antics. Oh, and that's contact there, and Goofball Antics spins off into the grass. That's disaster for Goofball Antics. Sam Smith slowing. He doesn't know what to do. He's trying to redress the position, but Goofball Antics still on the grass. Let's catch a replay down the back straight. They've gone in side by side. Sam down the inside. Goofball Antics looked like, I don't know, hard to tell from that angle. He just sort of turned in. Looked like he'd given him room on the inside. In the end, Goofball Antics has come out the loser of that exchange, and he's dropped down to 6th place. Sam Smith has regressed him down to 7th, which is very, very bad news for Madbird, because it's let both D-Smash and Roadhog through, and Madbird is now stuck behind them.
He is, yeah. That was I mean, it was his error in a way, but it was incredibly generous of Sam Smith to rather than offer to drop back, see how far back Goofball was, and just say, well, you know, I apologise, but I'm racing. That was sort of incredibly generous and honest gesture from Sam to drop all the way back and wait the full 20 seconds until Goofball was back past him again before he continued racing. So driver's driver there, Sam Smith.
He certainly is. That's Sam Smith all over. He is incredibly courteous man.
Yes, he is. Hang on. Sorry, caught me in a water break there.
So.
Oops, sorry. That's the. Speaking of water.
Yes.
I was going to say that what you had just heard there was a quite loud thunderclap, which means there is some water on its way.
I see. Well, let's hope for your sake that your that your power holds out with the storms currently over there in Melbourne, and so too any of the drivers who are racing from Melbourne, which includes Brenton Foley, Berto and Nether from memory, and Sam Smith, of course.
And Sam Smith, yes. Yeah, so hopefully it holds out. We did mention earlier that Foley had some issues before practice. Hopefully that's the gist of it, though. Yeah, this is going to be... You are quite involved when you are this far into an AMS session. It's not an easy thing to restart, get a computer restarted and get back into a session in expedient time.
Huge moment there for Brenton Foley, and that has allowed Berto up alongside down the straight. And that was a very, very bad couple of corners for Brenton Foley, with Berto reaching top speed just prior to Brenton Foley, and he's got through turn 1 round the outside. Foley ruining that mistake.
Yeah, it's interesting just looking at it actually, just looking at the live timing. It is worth mentioning, while Zurus has gone to the top and found himself another best lap again, of a 1:31.362 just in that last lap. Brenton Foley and Berto are both picking up time on him as well. They're setting 1:32s. Also in the bracket of 1:32s is Goofball and Sam Smith. So race 2 we'll possibly see, they'll see them recovering this race, but race 2 we should see them back in the thick of it again.
Interestingly, Decimage in the 34s on the previous lap, so that could all converge with currently Roadhog actually the faster of those two, but just not quite close enough to apply the pressure he needs to. It'd be very, very interesting if that battle behind Sam and Goofball catches him into Madbird now ahead of Sam Smith. So do we see why he's lost 5 seconds to Madbird there?
No, I missed it myself. Kid and timing's not telling me anything. No, timing's not going to sufficient enough lag for me to find out. Yeah, I'm not sure why that happened. Again, possibly a wobble somewhere. I know that Madbird has been putting the hammer down. Speaking of putting the hammer down, Sam Smith nearly spun it on the way out of the Mount Chicane. I've done it there a couple of times in practice. It's a tricky little corner, that one.
That'd be. So Sam Smith race has gone from good to not good, unfortunately for him. He was having a pretty decent race up there, fighting near the top end of the order with Goofball Antics, ready to pick up the scraps of anything. It doesn't look like anyone's able to challenge Foley and Berto for second and third, but if any of them were to come unstuck, then the podium would be available to those people.
Yeah, it's interesting to note actually, just having a look at the lap times there, that Decimage and Roadhog are actually starting to build pace with each other. They got both into the low 1:33s. The next closest to them time-wise is Brenton Foley in second with a 1:33.5, but I think he and...
Oh, Decimage is off. Decimage has gone off the track, and that is exactly what Madbird wanted to hear. He's still ahead of Goofball Antics though, which will be incredibly frustrating for Madbird. So that looked like just a bit of misjudgment there. It doesn't take too much of misjudgment.
Yeah, it looked like there was another bit of wobble there from Decimage, but yeah, that's the thing, is this track is so mentally demanding, and that you have so little room to... Oh, speaking of, that's a big one. Roadhog's gone right off.
Oh, I was about to say, this is Roadhog has an opportunity here to beat his teammate, and it was a very, very strong showing for him, but I'm glad I didn't say it, because then I don't get accused of giving him the commentator's curse.
Yeah, I only started talking about it now after you started spinning Roadhog, so that wasn't me either, but... yeah, that was a bad one, and the problem was that corner's a real tricky bugger to recover from because of the hill, and it really affects your roll. And I think Rennie got contacted with Bagsy there as Bagsy slipped past him.
Yeah, he came very, very close to making contact with Madbird as well. Now that both of the QV guys have had moments, that's brought Goofball Antics back into the fight for 4th place. Although Decimage is starting to just stretch away a tiny bit in the last sector of the previous lap.
Yeah, it's just a moment to talk about a battle that we wouldn't have probably otherwise mentioned, but I just had a flick through the timing. With a gap of 6/10 of each other, it's Nether and Tyler having a battle for last place. So I think Nether was further up at some point, so I think we did see an error from Nether at some part, but every other driver at bar Zero, I think, has had an error on this track, so it's not an uncommon occurrence, but Yeah, this will be good for Tyrrell as it gets him someone to race with and he gets practice. But I was saying that he's just put himself wide, I think, at turn 4.
Bags
But
just had an excursion, which has let Roadhog back through for 9th place.
yeah, so that will give Tyrrell some good car battling practice. Speaking of cars and being quick, Xeris now 1:31.321 is his best.
Consistent. Very, very quick times being bung in by Xeris here.
Consistent and just mind-numbingly fast.
Makes you wonder how he does it, because no one else is even remotely possible to maintain that sort of pace. Most of them down there in the 34s. Xeris on D-Smash on the previous lap did a 37.4 with that mistake. Goofball antics.
Yeah, right.
Very close.
Yeah, the next fastest best lap is Brendan Foley on 32.2, but that's still 9/10 behind Xeris's best. And I mean, the tyres are just getting warmer for Xeris, so and the track is getting more rubbery.
Oh,
so
big moment there for Goofball Antics onto the grass. Huge snap of oversteer, it looked like, trying to keep his foot planted to get a slipstream down the straight. Meanwhile, Sam Smith has caught up to Madbird.
yeah, that was a solid whoopsie there from Goofball, which has put him back behind D-Smash, and it's still Madbird. I think he's suffering possibly from tyre or just a bit of mental fatigue. He's struggling to find the pace, and actually Sam Smith is currently giving him the hurry up.
I mean, if Madbird's quite used to having people behind him trying to take positions off him, I think maybe he should just wait for Sam Smith to make a mistake, because Sam Smith is quite prone to making mistakes in this season. And he very, very nearly made one just then as Xeris drops down for the first time into the 30s.
Just please stop, mate. Oh, we had a car round, Goofball.
Oh!
That's messy.
That is messy. He recovered, and what was happening there? He was putting D-Smash under some sort of pressure. That was not the car that Madbird wanted to see spin and recover just near them. Gives Madbird the position, so technically he's only one position behind. Oh, God. Madbird did well not to lose the position to Sam there, because he was very much in the. He was very much the car that the Goofball was in the firing line of, and now, well, Sam and Goof can recover. If I can finish my sentence, they can resume. That's the word I'm looking for. Their battle from earlier on, and that they are doing.
Yeah, that was side-by-side contact with each other there, and nearly went both on off the track. But yeah, Madbird was the deer in headlights there when Goofball spun, and yeah, he could have very easily lost the spot. So it was awkward, but everyone got through in probably the best way they could have without having a monumental pile-up.
Yeah, the last man left to fall for Madbird's recovery to be complete would be D-Smash. Absolutely love that. He's up 7 positions off his start, which I think he'd be quite thrilled with, but he just wants to beat D-Smash, so it would be a shame if D-Smash were to spin right now.
I mean, relative, for the general purpose of the race and for D-Smash, definitely. You find my member just smiling a little bit if that were to happen, though.
Oh yes, I'm sure. But
oh, that was a wiggle there for D-Smash through the mountain chicane.
Oh, he's got it sewn up, I should think, 4th place. And
he's got 4 laps here, and I mean, everyone bar Xeris has made a mistake. The only mistake Xeris has made is by not having a mistake.
The biggest threat more for Madbird is the one from behind, because they're like a pack of angry sharks behind him. Sam Smith, Goofball Antics, and
they are,
let
yes.
him resist on the recovery drive after that early spin as well. So how much longer is Madbird going to be able to keep him behind as we hear someone recovering to the ground, back onto the track? I wonder who that is. It wasn't D-Smash, but take nothing away from what D-Smash has done so far, because 4th place would be his best result of the season, and joke as we may, that's a great performance from him.
Yeah, we've seen them consistently mid-pack, but mid-pack normally constitutes out of the top 5 for the most part. So yeah, for D-Smash to be position-wise knocking on the door of the podium, the actual race time's still a different story, but position-wise he's knocking on the door of a podium. Yeah, it's been a good drive from him, and this track is, as it's shown, it's pushing people past their mental and physical. Well, I think more their mental breaking points, and it's causing them to make errors. We say that Xeris hasn't yet, and touch wood for him, he won't. He is the exception to the rule. But yeah, this is pushing everyone to their limits mentally, and it's causing mental fatigue, and it's causing little errors, little mistakes here and there. We're seeing locked brakes, we're seeing slides, we're seeing spins. Speaking of, that's goofball back around again.
Oh no, well that's one less thing for Madbird to be concerned about. It's under an enormous amount of pressure from Sam Smith at the moment. So let's just catch a replay of what happened to goofball antics there in that little train there. Just the car on the switchback, the weight transfer got him. Very, very unfortunate. So what can Sam Smith do about Madbird? Has he got enough left? 2 laps to go. He seems to be all over him through the final sector, but Madbird is just placing the car where Sam can't get through.
Yeah, that's our closest battle on the track at the moment, so to flick through, that is our closest battle now. Yeah, Madbird's going to make that thing as wide as possible, which isn't too hard on a track that, for the most part, is only 2 cars wide. I mean, all you have to do is drift, and technically you're blocking the track. But, yeah, this is going to be a very torturous couple of laps for Madbird. He's at the end of the race. He's at, theoretically, the end of his possible tyre life. He's running low on fuel, running lowest on fuel, but whether it actually affects the way he handles his car or not, that's up to him.
I don't think he's taking too many risks with his fuel, to be honest.
It's just more from a point of dealing with less weight over the rear axle, which in a track which does like to throw a lot of inertia over the rear axle, it could potentially mean he's going to have a lighter rear end, which is going to make it trickier to handle.
He's got a lot of airtime through this season because he's been very, very good at keeping people behind him throughout this season. Every lap where he keeps Sam behind him, he'll grow in confidence. But look how close Sam is. He's all over him through this section, but there is just nowhere through. Madbird can't afford a single little mistake, because that's all it would take to open the door and Sam will slot through. But so far, he's been equal to the task.
Yeah, exactly. And the other good thing for Madbird holding the spot is, well, it does put him a long way behind D-Smash for this race. It puts him just behind him on the grid the next race, and all he needs is a good start then, and he could get back past D-Smash and try and reclaim himself. He's not behind in points yet. I don't think he will be after this race, but he has a margin that is very slowly diminishing, and he'd like to arrest that sooner rather than later.
Yes, well, D-Smash and Madbird kind of like swapping positions last time out, so it was a negligible difference in the points at the end of the night's events compared to the start of it. Given the relative performance tonight, I would expect it to be a similar kind of story to today. It's the penultimate lap for these guys, and Madbird just has a little bit over a lap and a half to go to claim that 5th place finish that would be very, very good finish compared to where he started. And Sam Smith is looking down the inside now, but he's just backed out of that one. Thought better of it, and Madbird's doing a fantastic job here of keeping Sam behind him.
Yeah, the old track sector is the trickiest. The old track part produces the trickiest sector in the 3rd sector, and plenty of chances for you to make a little error and let someone slip past. So to be keeping his cool at this point in the race through some of these sections, yeah, it's just going to be boosting Madbird's confidence.
And he's done it a few times now. I think every time that you have one of these battles and you stay ahead, each time it happens again, you come back and you think, I can do that, I've done it before. And
exactly, yeah.
He's done it lap after lap after lap, and it's one of those things where you can't think ahead. You can't think, it'd be great if I finish 5th instead of 6th. You've just got to think, alright, I'll just try and keep behind for another corner, and then another corner, another sector, another lap. But now Sam Smith has got a great run at him on the final lap of the race. Will he get him around the outside? He'll be a brave man to get that one done. Madbird, does he get it stopped on the inside? He's up the inside, very, very close. We've got to move towards Xeris. He must be coming up towards the end of the race. There he is. He's winning the race, and nearly Madbird unlaps himself. Foley's going to come home quite comfortably in 2nd place. We'll rejoin that battle in a moment there. Birdo is on his own in 3rd place, with D-Smash up there in 4th. He's stayed up there in 4th, and Madbird for the time.
Oh, he's off. D-Smash is off.
Oh, yeah, he's off, but he's got enough.
Hang on, where's Sam Smith? Oh, sorry, Sam Smith's back with Madbird. I'm sorry, my mistake.
Yeah, he's still right up behind him. And having another go there, Madbird chops him off, which he's entitled to do so because there was no overlap. And Madbird just a few corners remaining now between himself and 5th place in what has been an absolutely titanic struggle for the last third of this race. Behind them, Resist is not really close enough to make any impact. Just one corner remaining. Is there enough time with the slipstream for Sam Smith to get up alongside Madbird? Just gets it by a nose.
Yeah, that was a close finish. That was a good hold from Madbird there to keep him off, and that will have helped his confidence. And yeah, top 5, a great result for Madbird. Not as great as 4th for Decimage, but yeah, that went. If we discount the start, that actually went pretty well because Madbird qualified right down the back, so recovering 7 positions is pretty good. He would prefer it being 8, but that will still help his points.
It most certainly will, as the points get entered in. Same podium exactly that we had in the previous race, last round in Interlagos.
Yeah, it's they seem to be creatures of habit in terms of race podiums. These guys. Yeah, so Xerus on top, and as I sort of joked towards in the warm up, he did actually finish right next to Bagsy, who I believe he was actually going to offer Bagsy to unlap himself, but Bagsy and also jumped on the brake same time as him, so a little bit of confusion in communication there. Brenton Foley in second. It was a pretty well worked effort to keep Bredo off towards the start, and eventually just managed to drive away from. Got a 5-second gap at the end there. Berto then in third, Decimage in fourth, another 20 seconds back from Berto to Decimage. Decimage had a pretty lonely race towards the end of that, though. Once he'd sort of left Roadhog behind and got away from Madbird, there wasn't much on for him aside from a couple of little offs that didn't affect his pace too much. Madbird in fifth, holding off Sam Smith in a very titanic battle for sixth. Resist recovering to seventh, Roadhog recovering up to eighth, Goofball recovering to ninth. Bagsy the first, well, sorry, he wasn't actually. The first of almost lap downs in 10th. Nether, unfortunately, a lap down in 11th. And Tyrol also a lap down in 12th.
Indeed, and incidentally, that has made no difference at all to any of the positions in the championship. Some of the gaps have changed a bit, but their positions have remained the same, with Xerus going forward now onto 370 points ahead of Brenton Foley on 247. As I mentioned, the top 3 finishing as they did in the previous round in the second race. Berto is now up onto 206 points, and that's his 5th podium in a row. Incidentally, Brenton Foley is on a pretty good run of podiums as well since Place City Circuit back in race number 5, round 3. He's not been off the podium since his victory there, and just the 3 races occurring in the first in the first 2 rounds, the first 4 races, 3 of them he was off the podium, but ever since then he has he's been on the podium without exception. Goofball Antics, his worst round for a little while. His first race, his last. Let me fix that sentence up. His worst race for a couple of races now. His last time he was 9th was at the Circuit Paul Armagnac, up to what was a pretty good showing, but just a little bit too inconsistent from him. And he's starting to come under a little bit of pressure from Sam Smith there. Not a huge gap between them. 169 plays 157, and Madbird not too far behind on 149. He's ready to pick up any pieces. His gap to Decimage has been cut just a little bit now to 8 points, with Decimage on 141, and then Resist down there on 114 points. He's, I think that sort of that score betrays the racing that we've seen from him. He's been pretty good, but just hasn't quite got the results. A little bit more consistency, and that'll come together for him. Bagsy on 107, Lewis Wedding on 98, of course not scoring any points since round number 3. Roadhog on 86, Nether on 62, and Tyrrell on 32.
Yeah, the closest battles now, and actually it did benefit Madbird. We didn't actually talk about it, we didn't realise it during the race, but it actually benefited Madbird in the points as well. Madbird he's lost, I believe it's a point in the grand scheme of things. He's lost, is that a point? Oh, sorry, he's lost 2 points to Decimage in the tally. but he's also gained 1 point up on Sam Smith, who's now only 8 points up the road from him, which is a very achievable gap with 5 races left.
Certainly, if he can keep Sam behind him like that. Sam, of course, was ahead of Madbird earlier on in the race, but just too many mistakes. Slight contact with Goofball Antics early on, and redressing that position as was probably the right thing to do. He may well have got a penalty if not for doing that, and since he addressed it during the race, there would be no need for a post-race investigation.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's a pretty clean race aside from the aforementioned coming together. But I had expected that it'd be a little bit more. I mean, there was a lot of single car sort of incidents and accidents, whatever, but not a lot of multi cars, which it shows a good maturity from the drivers, especially if someone's having an issue, to not go and sort of make it worse as such. But no, it was surprisingly clean racing. I think we've seen worse on tracks with more room to run off. So whether that affects driving and the fact that they have more room to run off, so they go, we'll see if this works, rather than knuckling down to the very sort of fast in, fast out through corners approach to sort of proper speed racing.
A Grand Slam from Xeris, of course, with the pole position, leading every single lap, and then setting the fastest lap on the way to victory. And a very, very dominant way to bring up the record of 10 in a row, which beats his previous record of 9 in a row set in Season 2 in the stock V8s. So these cars, these Caterhams, are officially his best car, and this is officially his most dominant season.
Yeah, and it just so happens that the 2 races where he has the chance to, or the race had a chance to break his record, is on his home track, as it were, for this season. So yeah, I don't think he could have scripted that one better.
Exactly right, and one more race to go. It just gets better for him. He can potentially extend that winning streak to 11 races. As much as we like seeing these records tumble, it would be nice to see someone else give him a run for his money. I just don't see it happening tonight. Zandvoort and the Sydney Motorsport Park, the final 2 race rounds of the season, taking place over the next 2 weeks. It'll be very, very interesting to see whether anyone can challenge him in those 2 rounds.
Yeah, the first one come to mind. Brenton Foley has had a go at him and actually did beat him on one occasion, but the only other person that comes to mind would be you, Stairs, but unfortunately we have to clone you for you to get back in the series and also be able to broadcast the series at the same time.
Yes, I simply don't have enough time to get the sort of practice required to beat him, and to be honest, I think I would struggle in these cars to beat him. I reckon I'd be somewhere near Foley's pace if I had the practice, but well, without the practice, I think I'd be running up the back somewhere, to be honest.
So I don't think it has to be up the back. Yeah, from what I've seen, you did have some good pace both here and I'm gonna hazard a guess. I can't remember. Have you actually done any racing last year in Automobilista Australia, or was it just commentary?
I did some in the GT3s, but
okay,
there was some practice, and that was a car I felt probably a bit more comfortable with than these Caterhams. Just very, very found it very, very difficult to find your pace. I did do a practice session in these at Place City Circuit, and it was some seconds off the pace. So it just goes to show how much it's a game of getting yourself in that zone. These guys, of course, had 3 or 4 weeks of practice in silly season races prior to this season beginning, so they were already fairly accustomed to these cars before the season started back in round 1.
Yeah, that's the thing is that, I mean, it also depends on you as a person as to what car suits your driving style. I know that I assembled a couple of cars I didn't mention it, but I'm actually now in a setup where I can actually see all the cars at once, which does help the commentary a little bit. But what it means is I've also been able to run Automobilista to actually drive in for the first time ever, and put some laps down a couple of different cars and a couple of karts at a couple of different tracks. And I think my favourite would be the supercar or shifter kart but that's probably just because they're already pretty well set up out of the box. This thing takes a little bit of tuning, and it's to seem, at least for me, to be a little so spongy in the setup. It being road car based, it does have a little bit of body roll, especially relative to a kart, and it's very easy to get this car to the limit. Getting it past the limit or keeping it on that limit and extracting pace from it is where the challenge lies.
Yes, I think that's where Xeris' style comes in. It's a smooth style, and these cars are actually quite easy to throw around. You can get the back out and then save the slide quite easily, but that's not fast. He's able to. The driver who does well is the one who's able to just fall just shy of that limit and carry as much speed as he possibly can without taking it just that little bit too far. Some cars are less forgiving than others, and like the Porsche boxes, they'll spin around as soon as you reach that limit. The Caterhams will give you a bit of leeway, but they're not fast if you do that.
Yeah, it's most part is a very fine line between sort of being very flamboyant with the Caterhams and actually finding speed. We have seen that there is some exceptions to the rule. There was Sam Smith, I believe, at the start of the season, and Brenton Foley has picked up that mantle and run with it from about the third round onwards. But for the most exception, yeah, these Caterhams do very much reward the very sort of smooth, clinical, fast running style that Xeris runs and others try to emulate.
Well, they appear to have jumped into a warm-up session, which means there's just a little bit of time left before race 2 gets underway, which gives us an opportunity for a quick break to wet our whistles and have any bathroom breaks that we may require, and then we'll get going for race number 2. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Cadwell Park for race number 2. I'm just waiting for my co-commentator to come back, but it appears we're gridding up for the start of race 2. Not going the full 10 minutes in the warm-up session, apparently. And it appears that we're just doing a little bit of... we're probably going to restart the session, and that is exactly the case. So restarted session, potentially some sort of technical fault requiring that. So a false start in that regard. 90 minutes, of course, is the time normally allocated for a practice session. It appears that they're just getting the grid in order while they fix that up, as the server is being restarted. No information down on the ground as to the reason why. Potentially some sort of technical issue necessitating the restarting of the server. But we did have about 5 minutes in the practice session just prior, which was probably the grid being set, but we have had a couple of drivers, people like Brendan Foley, have had a number of technical issues prior to races in recent weeks, which has required the restarting of the server, so potentially something like that necessitating that.
Yeah, I just got back. I just saw that as I walked in the room, us restarting. I thought something had gone up, but yeah, technical problems always spins around a little bit, and I don't know. It's something I picked up. It's not sort of the nature of all Windows machines, but having gone from an Apple built all in one at the factory and it's already running to something that you put together at home or someone puts together for you, problems start to arise a little more often when it's not done by little robots in a factory in China.
That is the case, and of course, the great upside of a self-built machine is that you get to pick all your components, and there's much more customizable. There's a lot more customizable aspects, and of course, your wallet is a lot heavier when you do it yourself rather than buying a Mac.
Exactly. I'd say to a point, depends how hard you go, but usually, yeah, there is a premium for the Apple brand. But yeah, exactly. And the advantage of a home-built machine is you know exactly how it went together in theory, and it's a lot easier for you to upgrade as and when the time comes for you to need to do so. It
does make troubleshooting a little bit easier as well. If you've done it yourself, you can interchange parts, and it's a little bit more possible to find the problem yourself rather than if it's all locked up in a box where you've got to send it away to the manufacturer to find the issue.
Exactly. I mean, there are exceptions to that. I'm having issues at the moment where if I have a USB device plugged into my computer, it refuses to show the graphics when I start the computer, which is a small error. Other times, I suspect the amount of dust that the previous owner put into this machine, or didn't really put into, but as just in the machine as part of ownership, or the previous owner, does mean there is some dust on my connections, which hasn't caused me errors yet, but it's twice this week already. It's just dumped graphics for no reason. But talking of graphics and explaining things, the warm-up plan has started.
It certainly has. It sounds like you need a quick clean out and just unplug everything and re-plug it all back in. But enough about that. Do you want to take us through the grid?
I do, yes. Yes, so Zurus on pole for race 2 after getting the Grand Slam clean sweep of race 1. Yeah, if everything goes as to it was, he'll be buggering off again in this race. We won't see much of him. Brendan Foley, a great race with Birdo, eventually got him into second, and Birdo's just behind him in third place. Another good race for him, and good turn of form for him as well to be sort of the other man in podium battles for the most point. Decent match, a bit surprised for him, and with everyone else sort of coming off and him putting together some strong pace to eventually put himself into fourth, which has helped him in his race with Madbird, who sits in fifth, who just held that position off after some very hard racing at the end from Sam Smith, just behind him in sixth.
Oh, this Road Dog's gone spinning off in the background in the warm-up lap. That's a bit unfortunate.
That's right, I hadn't got to him yet. Resist sitting in seventh, again not indicative of his pace. He was up there for a point, but little errors here and there meant spins and meant he ended up further down the order. Road Dog back on track now, higher position slightly in eighth. He had to the pace of decent match early on, but started to fall off and then found himself in a spin. Goofball Antics is in ninth, not where he'd like to be. He has the pace to top five, as does Sam Smith, But coming together, and Sam Smith's generosity to give him position back left him where he is. 10th is Bagsy, 11th is Nether, and 12th is Tyrell, with both the last two going a lap down in that first race.
And the rest of them are just starting to grid up now, so we're just seconds away from race start.
Yeah, we are. This it's going to be, I imagine, based on the start we had last time, it's going to be a start. Bagsy doing another funny angle as well.
Yeah, he's not got a lot of confidence in whoever is in front of him in any given race, so he wants to get this good start into the middle. But so far, it's been a pretty damn good start for Xeris. And look at Decima, he's managed to clear Berto already and putting Brett Foley, I should say, under some pressure already. Sam Smith has got a great start. Madbird looks like has lost a number of positions already, so we didn't see exactly why that was. Very, very unfortunate. And Brett Foley is close enough to grab slipstream from Xeris, and that is a crucial break.
Yeah, I'd say, this is a bit of a squeeze there. Yeah, I think Madbird from the smoke got a bit of a spin off the line, but that dropped him, I think, like 6 spots or something like that off the line, so not ideal. He'll be coming back through.
He's got it all to do again. And having got himself up just behind Decimage, and to make matters worse, Decimage getting a great start up into 3rd place.
Yeah, Decimage just off the back of this battle for the lead, and it's good to actually have a battle for the lead. Yeah, Berto got a good jump, and he's just not letting Xeris escape. He is hanging right on the back of that vehicle. He is using whatever slipstream he can find around this very twisty, not very straight circuit. Yeah, it's, hopefully he can outlast the tyre warm-ups, so the tyre warm-up cycle, and keep the back of Xeris for the next couple of laps at the very least.
Yeah, I think he's just got to try and unsettle Xeris. He nearly got by down back straight, but just didn't quite have enough of his car up alongside, and this is a danger time through this part of the track where Xeris could just could get away, but I think Foley's kept himself within touch in distance as the guys behind the gaggle of 3 cars fighting over 3rd, 4th and 5th, which includes Decimage, Berto and Sam Smith behind him. Resist is coming under an enormous amount of pressure from Bagsy, Roadhog, Goofball, Antics and Madbird behind him, men recovering, it appears.
Yeah, Goofball and Roadhog both recovering from bad results, and possibly if he starts.
Brendan Foley's got through. Let's catch a replay of that. And it looks like it might have been a bit of a mistake for Xeris, a bit wide coming onto the back straight, and that allowed Brendan Foley to get up underneath him and get the job done. Great move, and it's a lot of action behind there with Berto, Sam Smith and Decimage all swapping around now, with Decimage back into 5th place. Berto's up to 3rd.
Oh no, that's Bagsy's run wide there. He had got a little battle going with Resist there for a bit, but he's run wide, and he's had a it's just not it's just not gone well from there. He had run it wide and then had a bit of a wiggle, and it's just it's all unravelled for him.
Let's rejoin this battle for the lead, because Brendan Foley has done what we knew that he had to do if he's going to have any sort of chance of victory tonight. He's got to unsettle Xeris by putting him behind him, because if Xeris is allowed to control the race out front, it's all Xeris. But that is a lot of grass there for Brendan Foley. Tried to keep his foot in it, I think, and Xeris is going to have an opportunity around the outside of turn 1 with a little bit more top speed. Foley's going to try and stay there, but he just doesn't quite have enough of his car up alongside there. And now Xeris has the inside for turn 2, and he will do for turn 3 as well. He's going to be slightly tighter than Foley coming onto this back straight, but Foley just hasn't quite nailed it, and Xeris is back in front.
Yeah, that was all from that little runoff at the end of the last corner there. That set the whole thing up for Xeris to get back past Brenton, and he didn't need to do that. That was a very costly error, and Xeris is a hard person to pass at the best of times, and this track really isn't a passing track, so...
Big moment there for Brenton Foley. He was very, very lucky to hold onto the car and keep it facing in the right direction, but he's got himself a bit frazzled now, and the gap's out to a 1 second advantage for Xeris. Sam Smith has managed to get up into 3rd place. It's Berto who's made the mistake down the inside on the grass.
That was someone in front of him. That was Sam Smith, I think.
What the hell? Sam Smith
is... Yeah, you're going to need a replay on that one. he went off, and then he nearly climbed the wall.
He's come up with an awful lot of damage there. So third place is a hot potato right now. Too much grass on the outside, and funnily enough, that embankment was very, very unforgiving. It wasn't a wall he hit; it was the grass on the inside, and that's dropped him way, way, way down the order. Now D-Smash back up into third, much to Madbird's frustration, I should imagine. Down there in 8th place.
Yeah, big recovery still from Madbird. I think he's made it up at 2 spots on that initial on the initial terrible start, but that's only been a result of Bagsy and Sam Smith both falling off the road. Yeah, Goofball is the next target for him, but Goofball is also trying to recover, as is Roadhog to stop the road from him.
Yeah, Goofball, Antics and Roadhog engaged in a very, very intense battle over 6th and 7th place, with Roadhog having to go to the inside to defend that one and resist not too far up the road as well. They go side by side down there, and Roadhog with the inside with the tighter line. Goofball Antics may well have the momentum, but Roadhog chops him across the front, and there's no way through there for Goofball Antics, and Roadhog's all sorts of sideways. Is he off the track? Yes, he is. Is he going to get it stopped? No, he's not.
No, that was a big speed wiggle he was getting along the grass, and he just didn't have the chance to cover it. He could hit the brakes on the grass wheel and was locked the wheel, so he had to wait till he was back on the track, by which point he was past the braking zone, carrying too much speed, and just sent it off. And
oh, Berto's off. Berto's off again.
Oh.
What on earth? It's been a very, very messy race for Berto. Let's see what happened to him. Wonder if he's carrying any damage, because that's not his first off this race. He was right up behind D-Smash, recovering well, it would appear. But that's just that the shift and the weight transfer in that part of the track has caught him out, as it has caught out many others. And Berto back into last place now behind Tyrrell. So he and Sam Smith, who were were fighting over the podium positions early on in the race, now back in 10th and 12th place. Now Madbird's recovery by attrition put it up into 7th place. He hasn't managed to get ahead of Roadhog just yet, Roadhog having that off a few laps ago. And you want to have Goofball Antics and Resist to put D-Smash under some pressure, but it's all going very, very well indeed for D-Smash.
Yeah, it's to see him in third place is pretty good. He's got Resist near him, but Resist is running off back, and Resist has problems in the size of a goofball. So his focus will not be forward at this very present time.
No, 3 seconds, but of course, when you see a 3-second gap ahead and a 6/10 of a second gap behind, you focus on the smaller gap.
Yeah, there was a bit of a wiggle there for Goofball, nearly locked into a spin. So it was a good catch by him to catch it through there. That was through one of the, I feel is one of the least weight sensitive, motion sensitive sections of the track. So yeah, that was still a good recovery though. When he's now right up on the back of Resist again.
5 laps in, a lot of action has happened already for just a third of the race.
Yeah, Xeris already out there setting best laps again, down to a 131. 131, I think it's 319 he set there, which is a couple of tenths back on his best in the last race, but there's more rubber on the track now, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see him go and better that previous best.
It looks like we're going to have a different podium sitter for the third step, with D-Smash currently occupying that position. Berto 32 seconds adrift in last place, and it'll be a tall order for him to recover to the podium from here.
It would, and it's a shame for Berto. It was good of him. He had the opportunity to spin it left or flick turn and get back on the track sooner and sort of merge back in. But he was either patient enough, or he was just possibly cursing himself in a way, which he would do from where he was sitting, to recover right back to the back of the track. But yeah, he's in recover positions, but not necessarily enough to worry D-Smash, unless D-Smash has a couple more offs in a similar vein to most other guys. Even in this race. But yeah, pretty comfortably in third. Resist is almost 2 seconds back.
Yeah, the Resist Goofball Antics battle at the moment is probably the closest high-up battle. We've also got Nether and Bagsy by the looks of it. having a bit of a stoush down there with
Sam Smith has spun again.
Sam Smith was right up behind them, but yeah, there he is. It would be a miracle if his car is not carrying a fair bit of damage. I should think he's right up behind Bagsy. I think he just outbraked himself into the back there and lost the back end under the brakes. Maybe that wasn't down to damage. Maybe he was just not quite expecting Bagsy to brake where he did. So
yeah, it might just be my sorry, it might just be my camera angle, but it looks like actually, it might just be a camera angle. It looks like Sam Smith might carrying a bit of heavy tow out on one of his front wheels, which is going to be affecting his cornering quite a bit.
Berto's up into 9th place, having dispatched both Nether and Tyrrell. And of course Sam Smith's making...
Oh, no he's not. No, he's not. He's just gone off again.
Oh, that's a big heavy impact with the wall. He had made that position up. This is a frustrating race for Berto. So let's see exactly what happened there. Was that a misjudgment, or is he dealing with some damage in that car? He just got a bit of grass on the tyres. I wonder if that caused him to go a little bit wide. He dipped the wheel on the grass, and it was his rear left wheel, and that's just spat him out. So after what was something of a faultless race 1, Berto was really struggling today in race 2.
Yeah, a bit of a wiggle that he really didn't want, and yeah, that's reset his pace all over again. He's gonna get that many spots back again. Speaking of pace, Zero up to well, wow, sorry, that was Roadhog there, spinning about 4 times, but not spinning. He had a spin and then caught it, and had a spin and then caught it, and had a spin and then caught it. You're meant to be going
to Madbird in the previous lap or two, which we didn't see.
Yeah. You're meant to be changing directions quite quickly in that section of the track, but not to that degree of veracity.
Might need a change of pants after that one.
I'd reckon so.
So that puts Madbird up into 6th place. Goofball Antics just 3 seconds up the road. Still can't really do too much about Resist, who's having another strong run, and I really hesitate to say that because I've probably put the curse on him more times than any other driver this season. And they're both about 2 seconds adrift of Decimage. Now Foley's had an incident somewhere because he's dropped way back off the back of Xeris and is only 4 seconds ahead of Decimage now.
Yeah, he had a gap of I think something like 5-6 seconds to Xeris, so he dropped basically that gap again. So yeah, I'd say something happened. It was possibly possibly ran wide off the grass somewhere through the new sector, because that seems to take less time off of someone's. Ooh. Gee, he was going the mountain there, and the mountain very nearly bit back. He had a big wobble there through the second corner.
Really no point pushing at this stage. You're not going to close an 11-second gap in 7 laps on Xeris. But, oh, jeez, he really is pushing. Decimage is probably in with a potential 2nd place here if Foley makes too many more errors.
Yeah, that's the thing is Foley's it's going to be hard for him. He's a competitive bugger, Foley. But he's got to just calm it down. Again, think long-term picture. He's lost Xeris, and no matter how he tried, even Xeris couldn't catch Xeris at this point. Well, it's just in terms of, I don't know, maybe a bit harsh. But the point is that he's not going to catch him, and he needs to focus on maintaining 2nd place. He makes a couple more errors, and that's exactly right. He's going to drop it to Decimage. If he drops to Decimage, there is Resist and Goofball right behind him to take his spot. If he has a big off somewhere like the mountain, which he nearly went off the last time around, he's potentially going to let Madbird through as well, because that's a big drop of time to spin off and recover from there.
Well, knowing Madbird's luck tonight, he'd spin off, give Decimage a place, and rejoin just ahead of Madbird.
Yeah, that would be some good luck for a couple of the drivers in the field.
So now that the DNF's somewhere, we didn't quite see what happened there. Which is an unfortunate way for his race to end. Best retirement we've seen since Guapore. Madbird was the last man to not finish a race back in round 5.
Yeah, I believe, I'm just having a look at the timing, it's possible that no, he did drop in a couple of laps ago, but I think what's possibly happened is he's either had a spin somewhere in the last sector, or he's come around to the line and just pulled straight into the pits. Apparently he wasn't carrying a lot of damage. Your cars are expected to retire from damage before he did. I don't think his time was damage based, but he did make it back to the finish line. So yeah, but sad to see never feeling the need to retire from this race.
to try and stretch himself away from the battle behind for 3rd, 4th and 5th, which is getting ever closer now to Decimage. I don't know if Decimage just had a scrappy lap. That time, previous time around looks alright, but he's in touching distance of Resist and Goofball now.
Yeah, his best sits at a low 133. Resist behind him and Goofball are both running mid to low 132s. The problem is Decimage has had the luck off the line and the skill to pick his way through the offs, but he just doesn't have the outright pace to be able to compete with these guys on a level playing field. So he's going to have to pull off some Madbird levels of blocking to maintain, I think, his 3rd place. If Resist or Goofball don't find their way into a grass patch somewhere.
Now, they're about a second a lap faster than Decimage. This is Resist's best chance on the podium, but what is Goofball going to do here? Because if he starts fighting Resist, he could be his own worst enemy, and they could both drop away from Decimage. I think if I was Goofball Antics, I'd let Resist tow me up to Decimage. They can both overtake him with the pace they have, and there's enough time left in the race. And then you can sort that out. Now Resist has just had a scrappy final corner, and well, if Goofball Antics can take him cleanly here, he should, to kind of contradict what I just said. He's got the pace. Now if I'm Resist, I'd tack onto the back of Goofball Antics and let Goofball Antics tow me up to the back of Decimage.
Yeah, that was a little scrappy. I was going to say that Goofball was already lapping at best, I think it's 2/10 above Resist. So, oh yeah, they're both still. Sorry, yeah, they did. Yeah, sorry, they did both lose time on that lap based on best lap pace. So they are still quicker than Decimage. But that battling, similar to when we see Madbird and Decimage battle, or any of the mid-pack guys, or the usual mid-pack suspects battle. That was very to the inside there for Goofball. But yeah, when you see these guys battle like this, yeah, they help themselves, but they really don't help themselves because they slow themselves both down, and it means whoever's in front has a chance to run away for a little bit.
Banks has just had a moment somewhere. He's dropped down the field, down to 9th place. Alberta and Roadhog in 7th and 8th. Sam Smith just behind Tyrrell.
Yeah, sorry, not follow. Xeris now up to a nearly 15-second gap. I can't remember what his gap was in the end of the last race, but I have a feeling this is on track to be a better one. Closest battle we got at the moment, though, is I think it's between Decimage, Goofball, and Resist, but they're all still about a second off each other. They're just nibbling at the slipstream of each respective car. Goofball is putting that 2/10 of a lap better best pace over Resist to work, and he is driving away from him and driving very quickly into the rear mirrors of Decimage, which is really going to be putting the pressure on him.
He just had a run lap. It was a 34. Goofball Antics did a 32.9, which was faster than Decimage, who, even though he did a 33.2, that was his best lap of the race. So Goofball Antics seemingly has the pace.
Yeah, he's still just under a 10th up on him in terms of best pace, and if he can extract that, which he's got clean traffic, so he should be able to get pretty close to that until he gets right on his rear bumper. Yeah, we're possibly, I mean, hopefully for the point of view of Decimage, we're going to see a repeat of race 1 with Madbird and Sam Smith.
The fastest lap from Xeris, 31 flat.
So he's not quite achieved his overall best of a high 30 yet.
Now look,
he's still got
Goofball
3 laps
Antics
to do.
has caught Decimage. Decimage, whether he's had a scrappy moment or whether the pace that Goofball Antics was catching Decimage, that was what he's done. He's now on the back of Decimage. So catching's one thing, passing of course around here is completely another. Resist looks like his challenge has sort of faded a little bit, but I think back there in 6th place at the moment, Madbird will be seeing this little battle between Decimage and Goofball Antics and egging Goofball Antics on to take a few points off Decimage.
Yeah, Madbird's biggest hope, not that you ever pray for it, would be that they start going too wide and something leads to something else, and all of a sudden Goofball Decimage is having to recover back to the track. That would be his ideal position. He's only 5 seconds back, so if something were to happen to Decimage or any other guys in front of him, between Decimage and himself for that matter, he could pick positions up that way. But I think looking at the gaps he's running, his race might have almost been run, and he is lacking the pace to Goofball and Resist. I think he was and he has been lacking the pace for the most part to Decimage as well.
He can match them.
Night.
It's just that he hasn't been able to make inroads in the pace that's sort of doing. If he was up there with them, he'd be running about the same sort of pace, but he doesn't seem to have the pace on his own to take big chunks of time out, which he needed to do. And having started from 10th, or having gone back to 10th on the first lap, it was always going to be the case.
Yeah, mentioning pace, Xeris, just another best lap there, down into the 130s, and it's a 130.849, so I think he has now got best lap of the night.
Well, that's all the boxes ticked for Xeris, isn't it? This is his 11th win on the trot, and in terms of the season, that would take his tally to 15.
Yeah, he hasn't quite managed to gap Foley as much as he did in the first race. Foley has responded in point. His best of 131.423 by itself is not shabby, but with Xeris on the Cardi, everything else pales in comparison.
It's a penultimate lap here, and Decimage is driving a very, very defensive Caterham. He was absolutely on the limit there, blocking Goofball Antics down the inside, and then just hinting to the outside. It's I don't think it was 2 moves, but it was, by goodness, it was very, very close.
Yeah, you really don't want to do 2 moves under braking. Not only is it not a good idea for you in terms of the rules, it's just not the way to go about racing. But yeah, he is making that Caterham. It does have a pretty big butt, but he's making it as I mean, Kim K would be envious of the widths he's putting on the rear of that Caterham right now.
Nice analogy, but look at how close, with that beautiful helicopter shot, Goofball Antics tailing Decimage through this final sector. It's all about setting yourself up for that move. There's no point going for a half-hearted move somewhere where you might be a little bit quicker and then ruining your run somewhere else, because you've got to be able to make that move stick. And so far he's been unable to do that as we start this final lap of the race.
Yeah, he's only going to make it another 14-15 corners, and he's got this, but it's Goofball's never been known to give anyone else any quarter in racing, and he's got a bit of a funny run off of that corner there,
He's
and
held it in. Oh, that's a bit of
a run. Oh, that's a bump.
That was a bit unusual there. There was very, very aggressive blocking on the inside there, and I think Goofball Antics probably was not quite ready for it. They're costing each other time, hand over fist, but Decimage has stayed ahead. Look at how much Resist has closed in, and I think he's just got to set himself up through this final part of the race and go for a run to the line. We saw Sam Smith and Madbird have a run to the line, and Madbird, the car ahead, was the one that prevailed in that battle, so I don't know if Goofball Antics is going to have too many more opportunities. Meanwhile, Xeris coming across the line in exactly the same fashion as we saw in the previous race, minus Sam Smith crashing into them. And Foley is going to come home in second place, quite a lonely second place. So we rejoin this battle for the final place on the podium. Decimage fighting tooth and nail for what would be his first podium of the championship. Goofball Antics is just taking to the grass. That's going to be all that Decimage needs to see. In fact, Goofball Antics is going to lose out to Resist if he's not too careful. Decimage hangs on.
He did make it over the line ahead of Resist in the end. But yeah, another lap and Resist would have been a benefit from that tidy run off the last corner.
Aggressive defending from Decimage, but he's held on.
Yeah, Decimage normally in championship races a very jovial fellow. But I imagine the Game Fest would have been well and truly on for those last couple of laps. The tunnel vision would have been in full effect there, trying to keep Goofball off him, and it worked in the end. But I wouldn't say only just, but Goofball definitely didn't make it easy for him.
Yes, you would have thought Goofball Antics had the pace to overtake him and then pull away, but it was very, very tricky to overtake tonight.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was some great battling throughout the pack for all these guys. Yeah, Xeris, no surprises, nicking off another 2 wins, which he's just continuing to add to his pole of to the rank of the most wins on the trot, and at this point he is just setting a record for himself to beat later down the track, which I mean he could do if we pick the right series for him.
Let's hope we don't.
Yeah, that would be it would be good for him, but it would lose some entertainment value. His sponsors, if he's got any, would not get a lot of airtime if he were to dominate to this length again.
Exactly right. Well, the drivers, some of them have started trickling into the commentary box. Do you want to have a chat with some of our podium sitters?
Yeah, I'll give this a stab. I might do a decent job for a change. Alrighty. Who have we got? We'll nab D-Samaj first. Rightio, so D-Samaj, that was, I think, probably one of your best races, your best race sort of weekends, as it were, so far. You got a 4th and then just managed to squeak a 3rd in that second race.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to get on the podium on the end, but luckily I was just able to keep my nose clean, and there were some mistakes that I was able to get past, so definitely very happy with that for this race weekend.
So what were the nerves like for, sort of, I suppose, the last 5 laps with Goofball bearing right down on you for the second race?
Yeah, I mean, everyone says don't look in the mirrors, and that's all I could do, just focus on looking forward, and luckily I just kept to my line and hit my markers, and thankfully it was enough to keep him at bay, but I was definitely getting a bit sloppy on the second to last corner there, but luckily it was enough to get a good exit and get out ahead.
Yeah, so I think that makes your first podium of the season now, and crucially, it does give you some more points in the buffer above Madbird, which definitely be helping as well.
Yes, I know he'll definitely be swearing in the pit box right now, so yes.
Oh, that's going to be happy news for you.
Yes.
That was some great racing, D-Samaj, and yeah, hopefully for your case, we see some more podiums for you in the future.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. We'll have a chat now to Brenton. Brenton Foley. Use the full name there. You had a good race there. I think it was race 1. You had a bit of battle with Berto for a bit there, and then race 2, you actually managed to get yourself in front of Xeris for a little bit. What was that like?
Fun as always. I knew I definitely didn't have the pace of Xeris at this track. It's definitely not my sort of driving style that's required for this one. But the first race pretty much had a really good battle with Berto for a bit, and then once I got back ahead, I just kind of maintained the gap and tried not to make a mistake. And then, as you said, in race 2, I got to pass Xeris for a little bit, and I knew I had to stay in front or in the tow, otherwise he'd just drive off as he always does. And as soon as he got back past me, I made a couple of very silly errors, getting one wheel in the dirt and things like that, and it just let him get over a second ahead, and that was it.
Yeah, we were mentioning in the commentary box that those little errors we're tripping you. Luckily, you managed to get them to enough of a minimum that D-Samaj didn't get a chance to trouble you for second. But pretty good pair of seconds, which definitely helps the points tally. You pretty happy with the results overall from that?
I thought I'd struggle a lot at this track, so overall I'm really happy with 2 seconds.
Nice, that's good to hear. Yeah, so that was some great racing, Brenton. It's good to see you making a pretty convincing fight for second place in the championship.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Xeris, it's hard to pick a highlight because either everything was a highlight or none of it was. But I think that was 2 Grand Slams in that race. You had the pole, you led every lap, and won the race with and set the fast lap on the way. What were things like for you, sort of up the front, a little lonely?
Well, first race, I guess I was just trying to be comfortable and push, I guess, because there wasn't anybody to race, so I raced myself, basically. And then the second race, Foley had me cornered for a couple of laps, and that was quite fun. And then I got past him around the outside of turn one, which was a lot of fun. And then that was it. It was sort of the same as the first race, where I'd sit comfortable and push a little and race myself. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think in the second race there, you broke down. You got the times down to something in the region of, I think, a second above Brendan Foley's best. You've probably, as you mentioned, have a look, but I think you're probably not far setting the best times in these cars around this track. But this was your home track, and you definitely showed it.
Yeah, I love this track a lot. It's unique. It's great. Recommend it.
It is, yeah. I had some fun on it myself, and definitely a fun track. It definitely lives up to its nickname of the Mini Nürburgring. Thanks for putting on a show. You did get a little bit of coverage this week. Try and slow down a little bit though, so we can give you a bit more airtime next week.
That's not happening.
I figured it wouldn't. Thanks for joining us again this week, Xeris.
Thank you.
Alrighty, I think we've got our drivers. Stairs, we've got the points.
Certainly do, and of course, rarefied air for Xeris. He now has 11 wins on the trot, which is a record for him, and proving why these cars are one of his favourites, and tonight, of course, proving why this circuit is one of his favourites. So 395 points for Xeris, and I believe he'll be able to win the championship next round if Brendan Foley doesn't score enough points. Not able to do the math quickly in my head, but we'll get all of those details to you as soon as we can. You may well be able to work it out in your head, but 267 points is what Brendan Foley has, and that's the second longest podium streak of this season. Of course, second only to Xeris, has been on the podium for all 16 of the races. Brendan Foley on the podium every race since round number 5, and 3 second places on the trot. He's putting together a pretty strong season all round, and a good platform to launch from. Birdo, unfortunately for him, his podium run comes to an end. He did have 5 on the trot, but a couple of mistakes tonight, and he finishes 8th. He's on 214 points, down in 3rd place. Goofball Antics did all he could to take podium to take a podium off Decimage, and he ended up finishing in 4th. And 182 points, not bad for his championship. He extends his advantage over Sam Smith, who had a poor race in race number 2, down there on 163, only 4 points ahead now of Madbird, who, although he finished 6th and wouldn't have been too pleased with race 2 tonight, he closes that gap to Sam Smith. But closing the gap to him was Decimage with that podium finish. Just 2 points between Madbird and Decimage now. 159 plays 157. A bit of a gap behind them to Resist, who had his equal best result of 5th place in race number 2. And that puts him on 125 points, with Bagsy just behind him on 114. Lewis Winning, of course, no races tonight. No races since Play City Circuit back in round number 3. He's on 98 points, about to be usurped by Roadhog, who's on 95 points. Nether's on 62, Tyrrell on 37, and Pablo on 19 points.
Yeah, that was some great racing, as we sort of always do with Caterhams. We had anticipated it to be a little more mess than we got, but it was great to see some great cleanliness from the drivers and some very mature driving. A couple of little errors, but this track, it's just, you don't get a chance to really have a break, so it's just constantly demanding of you physically and especially mentally. So couple of little errors creeping in for a lot of drivers, Xeris being the exception, but Xeris is the exception in a lot of cases. I'm looking forward to see how things go next week.
Certainly, it's going to be an interesting week for many of the Apex rear wing lads, as a large majority of us are heading to the Bathurst 12 hour on the weekend, and we'll be back just in time for next Wednesday's race at Zandvoort for the penultimate round of the championship.
Yeah, it'll be good to come back to that one. It's been a little while since I think I've seen Zandvoort with any sort of action.
Yeah, and probably the first time that a number of these drivers would have raced on that circuit. I believe that was the choice of Madbird. So if it's anything like Xeris's home circuit, it should go quite well for Madbird in his battle with Sam Smith and Decimage. But that's just about all the time we have tonight. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Thanks for joining me, Ben.
That's all right. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of this again.
Pleasure as always. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Bye for now.